place kicker is a very important part of a football team. I find it to be very exciting because even though football is a team sport, being a field goal kicker, you're kind of a little bit of an individual within the team concept. From a point standpoint, your field goal kicker is probably the most important player on your team. In professional football, your field goal kicker roughly scores 1/3 of your team's total points. So obviously from a point standpoint is very important. Now I'd like to get into some of the finer points of field goal kicking and some of the techniques involved. There are two basic methods to kicking a football. For many, many years, the traditional method of kicking the football straight on with your toe was the method used predominantly. The last 10 or 15 years, the method of soccer-style kicking, and I'm a soccer-style kicker where you kick the ball with the side of your foot, has more recently started to dominate in football. I'm going to start off explaining the method of actually kicking field goals. The first thing I'll start doing is talk about the approach, which is obviously the first thing you do. Now on television you will see some professional kickers actually carefully marking their steps backwards and then maybe 1 or 2 steps over to the side. Now as an ex-soccer player, I don't do that. It comes natural for me. I don't have to mark off my steps. I just step backward and line up in the same place every time naturally. The important thing to remember here is not which one of the two methods you use. What you're trying to accomplish is when you get to the ball, your plant foot is very crucially important. And this is one of the fundamental errors with young people learning how to kick. You must get your plant foot level with the ball, and this is why your approach is so important. In other words, if you're standing a little bit too close to the ball, as you approach the ball, your front foot may step past the ball, and then you will not be able to kick the ball high. Or if you start off perhaps a little bit too far away from the ball and your plant foot lands too far back from the ball, you're stretching to the ball and you have absolutely no power in your kick, and you also will kick the ball to the left. I have talked about the importance of the plant foot landing parallel with the ball. Now I'm going to talk about the actual steps from when you have lined up, you're ready to kick the field goal, the approach to the ball as far as your actual foot movement goes. I get my body leaning forward, take a small step forward with my left foot, barely a step at all. It's just more to get my weight going forward. Take 1 step with my right foot. My second step is my last and final plant foot right next to the ball, and then I kick the ball. There are 2 guys on our football team that I spend an awful lot of time with. They are the snapper and the holder, and my job depends on these 2 guys. So that is why we have to spend an awful lot of time working on this every day, practicing on the timing aspect of this. A good center can actually snap the ball on a spiral, so when it hits the holder's hands, all he has to do is catch the ball and put it down in the correct spot with the laces facing toward the target, toward the goals. That is much better than if the laces are over on the side, or especially facing backwards, because if I have to kick the laces, you cannot kick the ball nearly as far. So if a center works and snaps the ball on the right amount of rotations, obviously in a game situation this doesn't always work like this, and this is the importance of a real good holder who can make a little adjustment. Yeah, when he catches the ball with the laces on the side, he has to real quickly catch the ball, put the ball down, and spin it with his hands so that the laces are facing the goalpost, and he does this all very, very quickly. I start off by giving my holder an exact spot on the football field where I want him to put the ball. Once I give my holder this specific position on the ground, I step back and I'm ready to kick the ball, and I actually move into the ball before he catches it, or right about when he's going to catch the ball. So what I'm saying here is I don't have time for my holder to put the ball down on the ground and then for me to look at it and approach the ball. I actually move into the ball as it approximately hits his hand. So as I'm coming into the ball, he puts it down, and we have to do it this way because we only have 1.2 seconds to work with. I'm going to discuss now the absolute most important thing in kicking a football, and that is the contact that you make on the football. I've talked about the approach into the ball, and this is where I try to teach young fellas, and this is where the biggest mistakes come in. There are really two mistakes that you can make. The first one is if you kick a little too low on the ball, and that usually happens if you kick the ball out on your toe a little too far. In other words, what you do, you kick the very bottom of the ball, and it's very easy to notice it, because what happens is the ball will go real high and spin real fast, and you won't get any distance on the kick, and you will also usually kick that particular kick out to the right. The second thing that can happen is if you kick a little too high up on the ball toward the middle area of the ball, you kick a line drive, what we call a knuckleball, where the ball will go real crazy and obviously won't go high enough. The part of my foot that I use is actually up in this area right here, and you make contact with the ball coming upwards on the ball, because it's very important to get that good height on the ball. Once you have landed your plant foot parallel to the ball, made contact with the ball, it's also very important to keep your body over the ball, because if you lean back when you kick the ball, it's just like in any sport, balance is a very important part of it. And if you have your weight over the ball, you can really get good power in the ball. And then this is the biggest mistake that young fellas usually make, and is the biggest mistake with soccer-style kicking. Being a soccer-style kicker, there is a natural tendency to hook the ball to the left, because as a right-footed kicker, you are coming around your body with your foot from a soccer standpoint, just as when you'd kick a soccer ball. So there's that natural tendency to hook the ball to the left. And the way that you avoid that is to really concentrate and make sure, after you've made the good clean contact on the ball, that you actually follow through right at the target, right at the goalpost where you're kicking the ball. You don't want to kick the ball and open your body at the ball, because when you do this, when your chest is open, there is only one place that your right foot can go, and that's there around, and you will hook the ball every single time. So it's very important when you plant to stay down with your weight over the ball and to kick through right at your target and follow straight through. I have covered the basic technique involved in kicking field goals. Now, the other important thing that I do as a place kicker is the kickoff aspect. The basic fundamentals are very similar. The approach to the ball and the step and the contact and the follow-through and so forth. The only difference being now, you don't have the timing, the 1.2 seconds anymore. There's no rush involved in the kickoff, so you can take as long an approach as you would like to the ball. The important thing in the approach is not how far you run to the ball. You have to be able to use that run-up to generate the power that you have from the speed that you have from this long run-up into the contact of the ball. So what you have to be able to do is find a position that's comfortable for you, so that when you approach the ball, you have a nice even rhythm, and you don't have to stutter step, so that you can just stay smooth, and you should be able to transfer the speed that you have from this longer run-up into more momentum, and you should be able to kick the ball further on a kickoff than on a field goal. I have a very basic drill that I feel will really be able to help you in kicking field goals. This drill is something that I use a couple dozen times every Sunday afternoon in a game situation on the sidelines when I'm not in the game. What I do is just pick an imaginary point on the grass or on the AstroTurf, and I just back off and actually just go through my entire motion. And I'm concentrating on keep all the things I've talked about, keeping my head down, my plant foot next to the ball. And what this does, this is something you can do at home in front of a mirror. It's very important, because what it does, if you do this dozens and dozens of times, and maybe hundreds of times, kicking then becomes a natural thing to you. And when you're out in a game situation, you don't have to be lined up, kicking a field goal, and have a lot of things going through your mind. What part of your foot you're going to kick the ball with. When you practice this motion, this drill that I've talked about, just kicking, pretending to kick the ball, it just becomes natural after doing it so many times. You line up and you just go ahead and do the same thing you've been practicing in front of the mirror, and it should work great.